victory. I just got another victory. Opposition said they sick of me. We turn their future to history. They try to hit me, they missing me. Ooh, they in the way. They getting stepped on back in the day. We who they slept on. You see my place. It's never.
I want to welcome you to Sheer Brilliance Knicks. I am your host. My name is Sheer, and you already know we are first to many. We are second to no one when covering the team's views, recent news, and the who's who connected to our New York Knicks. If you're here visiting my channel for the first time, I want to welcome you. I want to also ask you, hit that thumbs up button, hit them likes, run up the thumbs up. If you like what we're covering today, if you even like the topic, you want to hear more about it, we're going to get into it today. And at the end of this thing, if you enjoy what you see, hit that subscribe button so that you're aware anytime I'm dropping a new video or any new content. But I want to welcome you for joining me today. If you are returning, you already know my SB community. Welcome back. Ride or die from the ground up to the top. I know we roll deep. You know we roll deep. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you. Let's get at it. We getting at it today. And you know you can't have those people who are curious about your channel and want to hear what you got to say. Channel's for everybody. Friend or foe. We want the smoke. And the smoke is exactly what we're going to be covering today, courtesy of the Brooklyn Nets and the trade deadline and LeBron James. So do me a favor. There's going to be some bumpy air today. There's going to be some turbulence today. So do me a favor. Strap the seatbelt on. Pull the strap a little bit to make sure you're secure and you're tight. As them things drop down from the ceiling, because the air might get a little bit thin, do me a favor. Put it on yourself first before you put it on a kid. Put it on yourself first before you put it on a kid. And enjoy this flight. So, I know I'm being extra dramatic. I don't care because I got a lot to cover today. Some people may not even make it throughout the whole stream. I got a lot to cover. All right? I'm going to try to fit it in all within an hour. So bear with me, but it's a lot that I'm going to get off my chest today. And we're going to start with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant being traded to the Phoenix Suns, ending the Big Five era, and that's ERROR, the Big Five era in Brooklyn. What are you talking about, Sheer? What do you mean five? Five. You had Kevin Durant, you had Kyrie Irving, you had James Harden, you had Ben Simmons, and you had a Hall of Fame player as your coach, with a Hall of Fame coach on the bench, and Mike D'Antoni, and that blew up. How did that blow up? Talk to me. How did that blow up? Kevin Durant, generational. Kyrie Irving, generational. James Harden, generational. Ben Simmons is a great player. If you look before 3 years ago, you got somebody who you can consult with in Steve Nash. But you have your coaching stripes. 7 seconds or less, and D'Antoni on the bench. How does it fail? How is it not clownable? They're respectfully calling it a failure. I don't know how you can respectfully call something a failure, but they're finding a way to do it on the media. They're doing it with kid gloves, whereas all gloves are off when you clown in the Knicks, ready to fire the owner. But we got to talk about what that is today, because there's no way in the world you have 4 superstars. At some point in time, they were superstar players and they work past their primes on your squad, and they are no more. How, Sway? Well, I'm going to tell you how today. So we had a lot of things take place very recently within the last 2 weeks. We had the trade deadline, which was coming, all right, has come and gone. New York Knicks stood pat, and I'm going to talk about why that's a good thing. But a lot of trades came about, shook up the NBA. So we're going to talk about that. Okay? We had a historical moment where LeBron James recently surpassed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Brooklyn's very own Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, for the NBA scoring record. No small feat. That record stood for more than 30 years. Kudos to that man. We're going to talk about that. And lastly, we are going to talk about we got to talk about the Brooklyn Nets and their current state. So we'll talk about the trade. We're going to talk about the Knicks, trade. We got Josh Hart, but it's about more than that, and we're going to get into that as well. But I want to talk about LeBron and how Brooklyn's failure is LeBron's legacy. And that's what we're going to get about today. That's what we're going to get into today. That's what brought you here. How do you make this connection with this connection? I'm going to do it surgically. Let's get into it right now. KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn. James Harden in Brooklyn. Ben Simmons in Brooklyn. Hall of Fame head coach Steve Nash. Hall of Fame coach D'Antoni on the bench. That was an abomination. It was an abomination. Listen. The crowd in Seattle couldn't, in terms of their football team, their crowd couldn't conjure up more noise than the amount of noise that was made when Brooklyn received Kevin Durant and Kyrie in one time. And the Knicks whiffed on them. Yeah, they have fake jerseys. Every commentator was laughing, pointing at Knicks fans who happen to be in the media, Stephen A. Smith, Spike Lee. Oh, you know what? And we were having watch parties. They had cameras inside the bars at the watch parties to drink the tears of Knicks fans. They looped that thing for weeks. That the Knicks missed out again. Terrible franchise. Could never get things right. KD and Kyrie to the Brooklyn Nets has now been proven to be an abomination. Between the two of them, the Brooklyn Nets had 3 historic superstars, a proven star, and a Hall of Fame head coach. And out of all of that, 1 playoff series victory to show for it. But already the media is trying to move on. What will Phoenix do? Oh, let's watch the Mavs with Luka. It's no lock-in, it's no fixation on the Brooklyn Nets, and that is the luxury. That is the luxury when you don't got the heaviest jerseys in the NBA on your back, when you don't got that blue and orange thing on your back. That's the luxury you have, and that's why they went to Brooklyn. Because although it was New York, they still could hide in the shadows of the Mecca, MSG. And shout out to Mikal Bridges. My favorite place to play in the world is Madison Square Garden. And I played at the Barclays. You see that? I ain't saying nothing. I ain't saying nothing. Just leave that alone for now. But an abomination it is. And I'm truly excited to talk about this outcome because it proves a long-standing theory that I had about this generation. This generation of NBA players, this generation of NBA fans. This generation, the trades, teaming up of everybody, Brooklyn's failure, all of this is LeBron's legacy. Since we're talking legacy this week with LeBron James, whether it's commercials, continuing to anoint him the king or refer to him as the king, whether it's the little clips or they're trying to have the iconic moment where they had everybody in their phones up when he was taking that shot that helped him jump Kareem for that position. That shot pretty much encapsulates this entire generation. And I don't want to say that. I'm going to sound like a hypocrite right now, but I'm going to do it. basically you have greatness in front of you. Instead of taking in that moment, focused on the focus and whether or not you're getting a shot. And I get it, because it's the equivalent of the Flash during my time. When MJ went up for that shot and they thought it was going to be his last shot for retirement in Utah, when he went up for that shot, all you saw was the flashing lights. Everybody wanted to capture it. So I give you that. I'm going to give you that. But this failure from Brooklyn has LeBron James's fingerprints all over it. And I'm going to tell you why. It's appropriate that it's around this time that he gets the scoring record, that Kyrie gets traded from Brooklyn and that KD gets traded from Brooklyn. Because there's no way they could leave that team and not feel as if they failed. There is no way. And my theory about this generation that I alluded to a little bit earlier is that they are paper champions. They are paper champions. This scoring title even feels like a paper record. Why would you say that shit? Well, you're being disrespectful. Well, I'm here to be disrespectful today. Let Kareem shoot 3-pointers. That record have been out of reach. Let Michael Jordan not take voluntarily time off to play baseball. Not only would he have probably 7 straight championships, but he would have obliterated that record if he had played 20 years. Imagine that. Now, I don't want to take a little bit of that luster off from that young man who did everything he was supposed to do to be the dominant player of his generation. Everything that I'm going to say is going to sound like a critique of LeBron James, but it's exactly what you should do. LeBron James woke up and decided that he wanted to be a creative player before creative players were a such thing, because that's exactly what he did. He meticulously designed what his career was going to look like, how the NBA was going to operate with him, and then he put in the work to make sure he reached that. So I give that to you. I'm constantly telling the fans, I give that to you. My problem with LeBron James and all of his followers today that's doing their best to contrive this narrative and force feed it to all fans. My problem with them is that, you trying too hard. First and foremost, if you great, just be great. Don't say you great. That's other people's job. But nah, that's what continues to be the problem. They're even saying in the Los Angeles market, the greatest is not Michael Jordan, it's LeBron James. And I think because I know I'm past 40, I ain't never heard Mike, and I'm a Knicks fan. So I'm the last person to be defending Michael Jordan. He made his name killing our dreams. But one thing you could deal with, he busted that behind. But that man will always say when asked, there's no way I can measure if I'm the greatest, if I ain't never played Kareem, his prime, if I ain't never played some of those greats in that era. So the problem that I have, not only with LeBron James as this generation's representative, as this generation's superstar, face of the league, problem I have with this generation's commissioner, Adam Silver, this generation of LeBron fans, is that, y'all trying too hard to be seen. Y'all trying too hard to have that title. LeBron hasn't even finished his career yet. People really weren't talking about greatest of all time with Mike until really after he left. And you could let it settle in and appreciate what he's done. At about this time, because it's a few days after that record was broken, at about this time, you've heard from many of the greats. You heard from Kareem, but cameras all in his face. Oh, he's not smiling. He's not pleased. Leave that man alone. That man ain't never liked nobody, even when he was playing. And then everybody was looking at who were the NBA legends who were quick to congratulate LeBron and who were the ones who didn't. It took Michael Jordan a day before he sent out a notification. Mike is petty, and Mike is deliberate, and he's mindful about what he does and when he does it. That's why I hate the man. I hated the man's guts when he played, but part of it was because he wasn't on our squad. To an extent, LeBron for different reasons. But Mike held that congratulations real quick. He didn't want to be the first in the inbox or the first on Twitter to give LeBron that congratulations. He held it for a moment, but he said that's a historic achievement. Still a little bit general compared to other people's comments. But I notice things like that. Why is it that every time I talk to a LeBron fan, they're crying for us to acknowledge his greatness? But we're going to start with LeBron James. I have a nephew And I find myself trying to console him. He pissed. He was just like, I don't understand why people don't give him his props. Like, what else can he do? You know, what else does he have to do in order to get the respect that's the greatest of all time? My nephew's like 25. My nephew's 25. He's legitimately like, yo, talking to me like, yo, what am I missing? He's genuinely asking me like, what am I missing? And I told him, I'm like, yo, young bro, the main thing that has put people on two different sides. People are not doubting this man's ability, his numbers, his ability, his impact on the floor and off the floor. It speaks for itself. The criticism comes in that he doesn't allow them to speak for themselves. And to an extent, some people out here, you know, you gotta admire that people ain't waiting. And you know, sometimes you can't wait for somebody else to give you your flowers. You gotta point out your own flowers. Make sure there ain't no flaws in what it is you're saying. And the moment he lost me, when he was sitting in the shop with all of his people around him saying, you know what, that right there made me the greatest of all time. It's little moments like that. It's look at me moments. It's look at me moments. It's the generation's need for likes. Look at me. Look at my pictures in my rookie year with my team. So I'm showing you that I'm being a leader and that we cohesive and we having fun out here. Look at me. You're 19, I understand that. Look at me at the All-Star game dancing. Yeah. Trying to be cool. So we got this, you know, pre-practice dance. And that was the year Derrick Rose ain't had none of that. D Rose is from Chicago. He's like, y'all being clowns, yo. Y'all really ain't about that. Y'all pit dancing and stuff like y'all hardcore. Come to Chicago. Let me show you what that is. But just another moment of many throughout his career. Look at me. Pay attention to me. Even with the flops. Pay attention to me. Like I said, rookie season, it just shows, you know, Harlem shaking in the room. Look, I understand it. All of it also was part of his branding. So this is the piece where I'm talking about. If we're talking about the game and we're talking about the NBA, that's one thing. If we're talking about greatness in terms of your impact, in terms of your legacy on the floor, you know, as a player and as a competitor, that's one thing. But what LeBron has successfully done is he's intermingled both, where it's almost difficult to separate all of the little things that you were doing that ultimately built his brand up. But what is that brand? So part of it building the brand up is, you know, hey, you know, I'm visible, you know, I'm doing what I need to do in a social media type of generation, in an internet type of generation. You do got to put yourself out there. You got to be a little bit more personable. Fans have more access to you. So I understand that side. But Joakim Noah had the greatest quote in NBA history when it was the Chicago Bulls battling the Miami Heat in the playoffs. He said, I just don't like them. They Hollywood as hell. And attitude reflects leadership. Part of what's LeBron's legacy is that he was just Hollywood as hell. It's appropriate he's in LA. Appropriate. And that's part of what I was telling my nephew. Yo, he can't just be great. It's like he doesn't believe it. The friends around him, they tell him, nah, son, you the GOAT. He's just like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I want them to say it. And he doesn't understand. You got to wait until you get out. And they ain't going to say it on your time. They'll say it when it's ready, when they're ready. When your numbers marinate and settle in and continue over and over again to prove undeniable, bulletproof arguments of your production that proves you're the GOAT. You just want them to say it while you're in the limelight and while you're getting ready to go on this retirement tour. You want them to acknowledge you. You want them to Roman Reigns your situation. Acknowledge me now. That's what you want. That's what you want. So it's the generation's need for likes, that look at me, that whole stuff. That defines LeBron's situation. Now you ask, what's the impact? Well, I'm going to show you what the impact is. LeBron's impact, all of that look at me situation, this whole social media, I'm listening and I know all the rap music or whatever, not knowing the words, but yeah, I'm cool with this artist. I got, Drake in the shop looking at me for like father figurely type of approval. All this stuff. What's the impact, you ask? The impact is Ja Morant. The impact is Ja Morant being in an SUV following the Indiana Pacers bus with a red dot light. The impact is Ja Morant and Dylan Brooks. That's the impact. The impact is Kyrie Irving leaving the Cleveland Cavaliers because he wants his own leadership legacy. I want to prove that I can lead a team as opposed to not getting 2 or 3 more championships and then having the keys handed over to you. You did that. The impact is Kevin Durant leaving the Golden State Warriors. Could have had the first 3-peat since the Chicago Bulls. Could have had a 4-peat. Could have had a 5. Could have went up to 7 titles. But leaving because he didn't feel he had seniority. He didn't feel like a real Golden State Warrior. He was so bothered by the narrative of joining a 73-19 that they decided to join forces and go over to Brooklyn because you wanted to create your own legacy. And if you don't think that's your impact, LeBron, he went over there so that they can dictate what the Brooklyn Nets did in terms of their personnel, in terms of contracts, and look what happened. Look at the results. Brooklyn's failure is your legacy, LeBron. Your DNA, your fingerprints are all over it. So that's you. That's all you. That's all you. Kyrie had another great situation in Boston where you got Jason Tatum and a young Jaylen Brown, and you had an opportunity there. And you started going in the locker room, they don't know how to win. Those boys just left the conference finals playing their hearts out, and they don't know how to win. And then you promised the fans that you was going to re-sign, and then you leave? That's all you, LeBron. Because in this generation, they've proven time and time again, you're not tough enough to stick it out and see with the players that you have or the development that you establish with your team, that you wear it like a badge of honor. You have pride in the team that drafted you, that you could bring a championship to them, that you could recruit players to play with you no matter where you are. But the moment LeBron James made his decision to take his talents to South Beach, all of that changed. All of it changed. He set this mother flipper on fire with that decision to team up with your friends. First time the NBA and the team owners were boxed out of having an influence on who pairs up with who where. LeBron James, one of his first power moves in the NBA, was showing not only can I determine where I go, I can determine when I get a championship. I see the glitch in the matrix and take advantage of it. Kudos to him. That's part of his impact. That's part of his legacy. His level of intellect is off the charts. The NBA had to adjust to that, and they haven't adjusted since. Four superstars on the Brooklyn Nets. Shows no adjustment has been made yet. All right? But once again, that's proof. Brooklyn's failure is part of LeBron's legacy. It's funny, I had a student ask me recently, right? He said, yo, Sheer, when are you going to give me credit? When are you going to start giving me credit for doing my homework? Give me credit for doing my chores and staying out of trouble. When are you going to give me credit? And my response to him was, you don't give credit. Credit is earned. You don't give respect. Respect is earned, it's not given. And this was in the midst of a heated argument. He stopped and he looked at me. And it's like he heard it for the first time ever. Middle of a conversation, heated emotions, all of that. He stopped, he looked me dead in my face as if he was puzzled, like I unlocked the matrix. And the next thing he said to me is, what do I say to that? And I had to laugh. I was laughing, he wasn't laughing, But his response to me was, what do I say to that? And I told him, I said, you don't say anything. You go earn your respect. You can't get credit for something you're supposed to do. And that's this generation. I took the garbage out. High five me. I made my bed up this morning. I cleaned up everything. High five me. I beat the Golden State Warriors coming back after being down 1-3. High five me. I lasted in this game long enough to be able to score more points than anybody else in the NBA. High five me. That's worth high fiving, but that's just making my point. It just feels like a paper record because of the history of moments where it's all about him. Look at me. That when you actually have real moments, they don't feel valid. That's the part that's crazy to me. Maybe it's only me. Maybe I'm the ultimate hater. I doubt it though. There's something to that. It's something to that. It's unbelievable, but it explains a lot. It especially explains why NBA players don't want to come to New York. The superstars don't want to come to New York. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to expose all of today's NBA superstars, because for years, you've been able to convince these new fans that the reason you don't want to come to New York is because it's poorly run. It's because it's poorly managed. Oh, I don't like how they treat former players. Look at what they did to Charles Oakley. Oh, I just don't, James Dolan. I'm not ever going there unless James Dolan is gone. You've done a great job fooling these young fans who don't know any better. So they ride with you. They lean on your word. But the truth of the matter is, when Kyrie Irving asked out of New York, playing for his own childhood team, that man was like, I'm out. It was proven when James Harden wasn't even there for a full season. He was just like, nah, hell no. Nah, I see what's happening here, and I ain't with it. Early, he asked for a trade out. And now we see it with KD asking out. You've been exposed, superstars, because what's been happening for years is you've been trying to paint New York, the New York Knicks, as an incompetent organization. Years in which they had the money. Fiscally, they were responsible. They were able to free up enough money, showing competence, but you shame them as if it's not even about your money, it's about the culture. And there were terrible times. I'm not acting like there wasn't. But you framing all of these excuses. Why? I'll tell you why. Because you're afraid of the criticism you will receive in New York, in Madison Square Garden. And that's why everybody wants to play there as the opposing team. But you want to put love on layaway. You want the milk from the cow. You don't want the cow. You want the crops without plowing the ground. You want the results without putting in the work. That's the superstar today. And many of you look at me like, yo, you can't say they don't work. No. Every NBA player got to work. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about taking a risk. I'm talking about meeting a challenge. Many of these superstars, KD, Kyrie, they can't hold the jock strap of Julius Randle and the level of criticism that man had to face. They could only admire what he went through in his first season, trying so hard to live up to the signing, understanding what New York is, trying so hard to be that, not being from New York, trying to capture and get the fans behind him, that he had a disastrous season. And then he came back the next year, balled out. And then riding the wave of that successful season, he received a contract extension. And then at the next year, where he tried to prove that he was deserving of that contract, and sucked. All of Knicks Nation asking him to be traded. All of Knicks Nation asking that man to be traded. Got to the point it was so contentious that his wife was defending him on social media. He put the thumbs down to Knicks fans after a good play. Don't cheer for me. I see how you're talking to my wife on social media. I see what you're saying about me. I'm here working my behind off. We supposed to be in this together. You don't love me. You know where we at. You don't love me. You don't love Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. You don't love Death Row. Well, let it be known then. I don't love you either. Y'all don't know how much therapy Knicks fans and Julius Randle had to go through to get back to where we are right now. KD and Kyrie could only hope to have endured something like that. That's what you have to endure. And that's when you have not an inkling of the amount of talent that KD and Kyrie had. But Julius is talented. He's making the most of his ability. But New York, we love you if you just work hard. We love you, just stick with it. Persevere. The most contentious conflict that you're going to have between two people is probably going to be between two New Yorkers talking about sports. That's just how we vibe. There's going to be moments where we get mad at each other. There's going to be moments where we have a shoving match. Get your ass up the following morning. Let's go to Knicks Deli, my treat. And it's over with. But you gotta be in the pan to see what's cooking. And that pan was too hot for KD and Kyrie. You can be friends all they want, but they weren't on the same page. You can't tell me KD didn't feel betrayed because he went there thinking that Kyrie was going to be as invested as he was. But we talking about LeBron James's impact one more time. Let me give you another example of it. Kyrie has been chasing LeBron's shadow forever. I want them to love me like they love him. What's so special about him that I don't got? That's why when LeBron first went back to Cleveland, Kyrie was just like, hold on, we'll see how that works out. Check the videos. He wasn't as excited when LeBron said, I'm going back to Cleveland. Cleveland, I'm back. We're going to win you one. Kyrie's attitude was just like, yo, bro, I was here through the losing years. I was the one that had to come in and step in when you left the city decimated. I had to help pull them from the rubble. I had to help rebuild some of these things. Yeah, you can help us win, but now you try to come in as the savior. Well, you were the reason why this city was the way it was when you left. Kyrie has been chasing that spot to prove that he could be just as big of a star as LeBron. And where he found it, where he found that spot, wasn't basketball. It was the vaccine. It was the vaccine. That was the first part that humanized Kyrie. That's when people started listening to him and seeing what his impact was. Any of the players who were looking from the outside simply as his basketball life and his basketball situation, they started thinking differently about Kyrie. When he took a stand and said, you know what, listen, I don't want, it's against my beliefs, but he had a social justice thing to lean on. And it wasn't necessarily divisive in terms of race. It was the vaccine, something that any racial group, if you had a similar belief as his, he pulled you in. Now you started having people saying, am I with Kyrie? Am I against Kyrie? Look, Kyrie didn't have to do it. He waited it out and he won. So we won. That's LeBron James's impact. Because if you let the NBA tell it, LeBron James was the one that sparked social justice consciousness amongst NBA players. That's another reason you wonder why Kareem don't really rock with him like that. Because you say what you will about Kareem, but Kareem was there with Jim Brown. He was there with Muhammad Ali. He was there with Malcolm. So, I mean, let's talk about it if we're going to talk about it. So when you talk about those little moments of rocking a T-shirt, talking about, you know, we stand with whatever, Kareem is looking at him like, really, son? Really, son? Son, nah, you wildin'. That's how Kareem be looking at him with the side eye. But if we talking about this generation and NBA players who stood up for social justice, the first person to do that in this generation, I'm not talking about Mahmoud, the first person that you find who did that was Carmelo Anthony. Check the tape. Carmelo Anthony went out there and started marching with the community in Baltimore. Check the tape. Carmelo Anthony was the first and stood up, but simply like LeBron does, the moment that opportunity arose where something could be said about, the injustices that we were beginning to see in this country. It couldn't be one person to stand up and made a statement. We got to do it big. We got to do it at the ESPYs. And let's stand side by side. And LeBron and Carmelo and Chris Paul united. And it's a photo op. That's LeBron. That's the LeBroning of the NBA. That's part of the LeBroning of the NBA. It has to be a moment where when they reflect on history, these moments, he's such a student of the game. He studies the game so much. I heard Isaiah Thomas say one time, how does that young man come into the NBA at 18? And he has never had a Hall of Fame coach. He's been his own coach his whole career. He's been his own coach his own career. How do you reach that level of greatness? And you don't really have a coach. He studied the game so much. He studied the game so much that it's almost like photogenic. But the problem is he sees those moments. He sees the still images, with those other historical sports figures speaking when it's not popular to speak. Back then, it was dangerous to do so. It was dangerous to do so. It could be career ending. And it's like, I see all these little moments where Muhammad Ali was speaking out and Kareem was speaking out and all of these things. I want those moments. I want, when my sons are playing this game, I want those pictures to be there because the reason was solid, but the photo op was contrived. It feels like paper. They feel like paper champions. It feels like paper power move. It's a creator player career mode on 2K in real life. So it explains why players don't want to come to New York, because you don't really want that smoke, and the way you avoid it is to down the team. And the only way you choose Brooklyn over MSG, because you didn't want that heat. You wanted to hide. You wanted to be a hermit. Put the jersey on it and have all of the perks that come with having a business and being in the New York market and feeling the vibes of the city. And just as quickly as you came in, you left. And those Brooklyn fans who became Brooklyn fans because you were there, what they left to do now? But that's the piece. That's why you don't get that great disapproval from everybody, because we see through it. And that's another reason you don't want to play in MSG. And that's another reason all of you fake superstars are exposed. Because New Yorkers, we see it. We see through it. Julius could have been ran. Julius could have sprinted. We were trying to push him gently out the door. That young man continues to say, I ain't going nowhere. I'm trying to get this thing right. So we say what we will, but I don't know. It's VC culture. If you don't know what that is, it's virtual currency. What can I do to speed this up? It's a microwave mentality. It's an air fryer desire to get championships and skip steps. That's why when the New York Knicks front office speaks directly to the fans and say the way we're going to have to do this is build it brick by brick and not skip steps. Many of you Knicks fans on Twitter, you forget that. Y'all don't want to hear that. That was just a passing by topic for you to discuss. I love it that the front office is sticking to their guns. They're not skipping steps. It's VC culture. Julius Randle has been balling out this season. Balling out. All-star, two-time All-star. Jalen Brunson been balling out this season. If I could have Jalen Brunson go to a surgical specialist in New York and see if they can take some of his personality DNA and implant it in every member of the team, I would. Because Brunson has moments where he don't smile during the game or after the game. You're going to high five, he's going to talk to you a little bit, and he out. Because I saw once we played the Lakers and that game was over, LeBron does what he does with all of the players in the league afterwards. It's almost like, oh, I get approval from the king. Do I get knighted? Do I get knighted by the king? LeBron will go up to them and do what he does, cover his mouth like they talking big stuff. And he did that with Julius. And I was sick. I was just like, yo, Julius, man, you just made your second All-Star game, bro. Just being in that game, you should feel like, yo, I know you see me. Because I tell you, that first All-Star run, LeBron didn't want to acknowledge what Julius did when he was setting New York on fire. Him coming in, obviously, he could have had a say in whether or not they gave Julius money to stay in L.A. He didn't think Julius was worth it. Let him go. That'll only come from the king if you come into L.A. And I don't know if Julius is aware of that, but I'm from the outside looking in. I can see it clearly. So if I'm Julius, I'm trying to terrorize the league. Everybody, listen, LeBron James, you're getting old now. It's my time now. I got a window. It's time for me to help push you out this league. No chit-chat, the high five, man. Let's say that for the offseason. Let's go. That's where a lot of Knicks fans are, man, and that's where we have that disconnect with this generation. Because a lot of us is just like, yo, we know players were going out to dinner before the game or after the game. We know that. Patrick Ewing was going out with Michael Jordan or Alonzo Mourning or Dikembe Mutombo for dinner the night before. We know that. But you could never tell on the court when they played. it felt like we don't like that team. Well, you got a lot of older fans disconnected from this generation. Because everything about them is just like, yo, we're going to go out to party together, this, that, and the third. Smiling, and Jeff Van Gundy couldn't have said it any better. Smile in your face and stab you in the back. Michael Jordan just got mad because Van Gundy saw what was happening. And then my players up and then you kill them on game day. That's exactly what happened. So it's crazy. But just like their king, KD and Kyrie tried to do the same thing. I see the blueprint. Let us do our own thing. Let you and I find another player. Oh, KD, his former players, teammates with Harden. Let's get him here. And let's take that blueprint and see if we can dominate. Only thing missing is alpha personality. And in that group, there was no LeBron. Kudos to LeBron. Whatever space he's in, he lets you know who's the best player. And that comes with being the best player. Your personality don't necessarily have to be New York alpha, but your play and your ability is. So you can ride on that. Have you questioning whether or not this is the right decision, like the Brooklyn Nets are. And they ultimately decided it wasn't, so they cut the rope, traded it out, scrap this thing, let's start this thing over from the ground up, organically. Brooklyn Nets are now looking across the bridge, trying to do it like the Knicks are doing it. That's exactly what's happening. So, I say that to say this. All right, Sheer, so if you got a problem with today's superstar, you talking all this stuff. If they see your video, they definitely ain't coming to New York. Well, if they're coming to New York because of the YouTube video, they asses ain't going to survive it anyway. Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, Long Island. Where are these basketball players? This is the Mecca, right? Where are the players? Where are the superstars who are coming out of New York? We used to be known as the birthplace for point guards in the NBA. Where they at? What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? Because if you ask me, all of today's superstars are international. They're coming from Akron, coming from Washington, they're coming from Philly, they're coming from Cali. New York, you're supposed to be the Mecca of basketball. Why we ain't producing superstars? Because if we had superstars in the NBA who are from New York, we wouldn't have a problem getting them to sign with New York because they know what New York is. Why do you think they loved Stephon Marbury when he came here? You think Kimba got the love that he got in that little stint that he was here? Carmelo, because he played in Syracuse. That's the reason. All of today's superstars are scared of New York because they weren't born in New York. So they're taking on the fears of their parents. They're taking on the rumors they've always heard about the big bad city, the concrete jungle. No, I mean, New York is dangerous. I don't want to go out there. Look at the Knicks fans. And if they're watching TV and they watch how Knicks fans are, they damn sure don't want to come out here because they don't understand that we could be in an argument and to the outsider looking in, it sounds like we about to fight. But that's love. They don't understand that when we get hyped with each other, it probably could get physical. In a good way, like I'm going to punch you if you got me rolling. They don't understand that. They don't understand the culture of New York. So we got to start producing ball players who are dominant. Shaq came out of New Jersey. And obviously, even New Jersey isn't considered New York. Kyrie would have been in orange and blue uniform. New York, get on your grind. Brooklyn, where you at? Bronx, where you at? Manhattan, where you at? Long Island, Queens, where y'all at? Where these players at? Get these cats back out on the street. Even at the Rucker Park, we wait for outsiders to come here and show us stuff. Where are you, New York? Where are you, New York grown, born and bred players? That's the challenge to y'all. Ain't none exist. That's why they don't come here as a free agent. Because they ain't from here. There is a New York bias that's out there. because for too long we've been dormant in our production of top-tier New York-based players. On top of that, you got the media who's continuing to stay shaming and piling on the organization while they were down, and a fan base who hasn't been a threat in 30 years. Why do you think that is? Don't let that sleeping giant wake up. Don't awaken the Kraken. Because if the Kraken ever awakens, he's going to get up and he's going to destroy the league. The New York Knicks are a sleeping giant. And they know that when New York is successful, the league is successful, but it's going to be extra hard for small teams to compete. Because if you ever got a superstar in New York, all of the ancillary things that comes with a winner magnify when it's in New York. You get a legitimate superstar in New York with this type of cohesion, but if the Knicks ever get it right, and they ever get a superstar or two, and they have the core and foundation of what they've been building, sustainable winning for years, San Antonio style, it's a wrap for small markets. Because once again, players are going to want to go to the big market because they see what comes with that. Right now, they're content with the little, hey, social media has made it that no matter where in the world you are, you can still get the same thing you would get from a big market. It's because those players ain't never played in a big market as a superstar. Which is why I'm in agreement with New York Knicks in not getting Donovan Mitchell. Okay? Because the question is still, is Donovan Mitchell that level of superstar who could have not only taken us over the edge and had us competing consistently for championships? Is he that player? And the same thing with Zach LaVine. I know a lot of people, it's just like, oh my God, it's the second time. Are you serious? Are you seriously telling me Zach LaVine was the one? You can't be serious. You can't seriously be telling me Zach LaVine was that one to go all in for. And once again, they kept Grimes out of the deal for it. There were real superstars in this league that the Knicks are just waiting to pull the trigger on. A superstar like Giannis. Giannis is a superstar. If Giannis decides he wants to explore his free agency, that's the type of player you push all the chips in the middle of the table for. LaMelo Ball is the type of player who is projected to be a superstar that you push all the chips in the middle of the table for. Luka Doncic is that type of player, that level of player, push all the chips into the middle of the table for. Those are superstars that are worth the New York Knicks saying, listen, everything we got, we don't care, put it forward, we'll figure it out. New York Knicks fans don't know the difference sometimes. They don't know the difference. But that's when you do it. That's why I'm happy with where the New York Knicks are. Because very, very stealthily, the New York Knicks have applied a small market mentality to their building up of this organization. And they've been successful at it. And we've been asking for them to do it for years, and we've never done it, and we are doing it right now. Because we know we cannot rely on superstars wanting to come here. Some very talented, impactful players wanting to come here. The New York Knicks have committed to developing and really working with the players that we have to see if we can create our own. We asked them to do it, and they're doing it. The other day, they have all of our young players in the game, helping us secure victory. All of them. Mistakes and all, but we're not pulling them from the game when they make them. That's what you're seeing. What you're seeing is them doing it the right way. Not looking for the splash, not looking for the back page. But tweaking. What can we get? This player, Josh Hart, we know we need a little bit more punch off the bench. Let's bring him in. We knew he was playing heavy minutes in Portland. Let's see what that looks like. The New York Knicks are playing chess, not checkers. There's a lot of people on Twitter trying to play speed checkers. Knicks are doing it the right way. Because no other organizations want to help us. Sometimes Knicks fans believe that these organizations are in a rush to help us get back on top. They don't want to help us. Nobody is coming to save us. Understand it. Sit on it. Let it marinate. Take a picture of that month. I don't give a. They don't want to help us. Get it through your mind. So we got to continue to draft. We got to continue to develop. And then we have to entice free agents who are from here, who have a spirit of New York. Obi was here. There could have been no more example of a player with a spirit of New York than that man sitting on TV crying the ugly cry when he got drafted to the New York Knicks. And he said, I promise I ain't going to let y'all down. I promise I'm going to give my all. I know what it means to put on this jersey. When you got a player drafted like RJ, and everybody could have something different to say about RJ, but RJ has orange and blue in his, but when he's at his press conference, although that seemed contrived, when he said, I'm a Knick. What you're doing is you're changing the narrative with young players. The league is watching the New York Knicks. 4 games above 500. Watching us grow and experience winning and figure it out. We're doing it with all young players because the veterans are on a bench. So what the Knicks are now talking, communicating to the rest of the league, we're not communicating to the LeBrons and them no more. We're communicating to the Ja Morants. We're showing you that we are consistent, we are solid. Our young players love playing in this environment. They don't want to get traded from us. This could be yours. That's what a solid organization does. They took the stench off of Madison Square Garden. They took the stench off of the orange and blue jerseys. And they're showing the league, we not pressed. We're going to move on our own time. And you're not going to shaft us like you used to back in the day. You got draft picks, so we could give away 1 or 2 here and there. But we're doing it at our own pace. At our own pace. So as I wrap this up, that's how Brooklyn's failure is connected with LeBron's legacy. Every generation is defined by its superstar. Every generation of the NBA is defined by who is the face of the league of that time. In the 80s, it was Bird and Magic. You know, that was the run and gun. That was Showtime era. Those were the battles. Those were championship dynasties. Those were the dynasty era. And then it was the 90s, and Michael Jordan was the face of the league. The commissioner was connected with Michael Jordan. So as Michael Jordan ascended, the commissioner ascended, and he was able to expand the game internationally. So he pointed out, you know, that's my guy. You come to this league, and he is the face, and this is all the wonderful things that are happening. And then LeBron James get drafted. And then that commissioner steps down, and Commissioner Adam Silver steps in during the LeBron James era. And he's hitched his cart to that wagon. So that's why he's pushing right now all this narrative that there is a new face of the league and who's the greatest to take the mantle as the greatest and lead it into the future. That's why all this stuff seems so forced. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to change the logo to a LeBron silhouette. This seems to be contrived. Everything just seems forced. You got to get it right. It just seems like winning is not enough for today's player. It has to be about the what's my legacy? And you don't realize that winning is the legacy. And the journey to winning, that's the legacy that people respect. You just think the title is what's respected. There's a picture going around on the internet where KD was looking at the groundbreaking, I believe, of part of the Brooklyn Nets arena or someplace, and he showed up with a hard hat on and construction gear. And they said, this is typical KD. He shows up when things are already built. That's the generation. That's this generation. That's LeBron's legacy. Only showing up when things are already built for him to be successful. The last real respected superstar is Kobe Bryant. So my message to you is, shut up or show up.